Across oceans and centuries, two warrior traditions emerged at opposite ends of the world, each shaped by vastly different lands, cultures, and gods. In the East, the samurai of Japan, bound by Bushido, the way of the warrior, honed their skills with sword and bow, dedicating their lives to loyalty, discipline, and death embraced with honor. In the West, conquistadors, forged in the crucible of Spain, is a reconquista, sailed into the unknown, armed with steel, gunpowder, and the cross, driven by wealth, glory, and the crown. Though they never truly faced each other on a battlefield, imagining such a clash is not only an exercise in military comparison, but a study in the collision of two entire civilizations. What would happen if the disciplined martial culture of Japan met the audacious firepower of Spain's conquistadors? To understand the stakes of such a confrontation, one must first step into their worlds. The samurai were the ruling class of feudal Japan, a society marked by rice fields, castle towns, and Shinto shrines. By the 15th and 16th centuries, Japan was divided among rival daimyo lords, their armies locked in the Sengoku Purida century of civil war. Samurai were not simply soldiers, but also bureaucrats, poets, and monks. Their identity revolved around the katana, the curved steel blade refined to deadly perfection. Yet their arsenal extended to the Yumi longbow, the Naginata spear, and later the matchlock arquebus, introduced by Portuguese traders in 1543. Above all, their combat ethos was bound to an unyielding sense of duty. The way of the warrior is found in death, wrote Yamamoto Tsunetomo in the Hogakure, the Conquistadors. In contrast, were products of Europe's Renaissance and its wars of religion. Spain, newly unified under Ferdinand and Isabella, expelled the Moors from Granada in 1492 and immediately turned its gaze overseas. Hardened knights and foot soldiers, now unemployed at home, enlisted under captains like Hernan Cortes and Francisco Pizarro, who promised riches in the New World. Their weaponry was shaped by Europe's ceaseless conflicts: steel breastplates, pikes, rapiers, crossbows, and above all, gunpowder, muskets, and cannons. They marched under the symbol of the cross, convinced they carried both salvation and sovereignty. Bernal Díaz del Castillo, a soldier of Cortes, recalled of their campaigns in Mexico: "We came here to serve God and His Majesty, and also to get rich." The conditions of their homelands explain much of their contrast. Japan, mountainous and insular, nurtured self-reliance and discipline, with warfare defined by ritual duels and clan honor. Spain, part of continental Europe, emphasized siege warfare, combined arms, and religious justification for conquest. When the conquistadors reached the Americas, their shock tactics, cavalry charges, and firearms overwhelmed indigenous armies unfamiliar with steel and horses. When the samurai fought in Japan's unending wars, they displayed astonishing resilience and skill in both open battle and castle sieges. Imagine then the stage for an encounter, perhaps on some Pacific shore, where Spanish ships, heavy with arquebusiers and cavalry, land upon an island patrolled by samurai retainers. The conquistadors would step onto the sand in gleaming breastplates, their banners embroidered with Castilian lions and Christian crosses, muskets primed in cannons wheeled into place. From the forest's edge, samurai would emerge in lacquered armor, colors vivid against the green-red crests, golden masks, and blades reflecting the morning sun. Taiko drums might beat, war horns might sound, summoning not only soldiers but spirits. The build-up would be tense. The Spaniards, confident in their faith and firepower, would see themselves as crusaders upon heathen land. The samurai, bound by honor, would see invaders threatening their lord's domain. A parley might fail, for language, religion, and worldview stood as insurmountable barriers. And so the battlefield would await. When the clash began, the opening act would belong to gunpowder. Spanish arquebusiers, kneeling in lines, would unleash volleys that cracked across the shore. Smoke would billow, iron balls slicing through the air. Samurai archers, masters of the longbow, would answer with arrows tipped to pierce armor. Arrows loosed in precision arcs honed through decades of ritual practice. Horses would thunder forward, conquistador cavalry lowering lances for the charge. But samurai, trained to unhorse foes with yori spears, would meet them with disciplined ranks, their naginata slicing through man and beasts alike. The true terror would come when the lines closed. Here the samurai excelled. Their swords, folded countless times, were unmatched for sharpness and resilience. In single combat, a samurai's katana could sever through armored joints and bones with terrifying efficiency. Spanish soldiers, with rapiers and shields, would rely on thrusts, counters, and the strength of formation. The din of steel on steel would echo across the field, katana ringing against rapier, spear shafts shattering, men screaming prayers to Amaterasu or Christ. Yet the Spaniards held their greatest weapon behind the cannon. One blast could scatter formations, tear apart ranks, and shatter morale. Against such force, even the courage of the samurai would be tested. But Japan was not unfamiliar with gunpowder. By the mid-16th century, samurai warlords fielded tens of thousands of arquebuses, coordinating volleys in deadly rhythm. Oda Nobunaga's use of firearms at the Battle of Nagashino in 1575 broke the cavalry charges of his rivals and forever changed Japanese warfare. Thus, the samurai could adapt, using their own muskets and clever tactics to counter Spanish artillery. The aftermath of such a battle would be costly for both sides. Spanish armor and firearms would give them an edge in open volleys. Yet the samurai's discipline and melee prowess could shatter isolated units. Victories would depend not only on weapons, but terrain, leadership, and morale. On Japanese soil, the samurai, supported by castle fortifications and local supply, might hold firm. On foreign shores, the Spaniards, backed by ships, cannons, and relentless ambition, might prevail. It would not be a simple triumph of East or West, but a brutal stalemate of two proud warrior traditions. The legacy of this imagined encounter is profound. Both the samurai and conquistadors represent extremes of martial culture, one bound by duty and honor, the other by faith and conquest. Both reshaped their worlds. The samurai preserved Japan's feudal order until the Meiji Restoration, while the conquistadors toppled mighty empires in the Americas, spreading European influence across continents. Their philosophies endure. Samurai Bushido, still studied as a code of discipline. The conquistador spirit, remembered as both heroic and devastating. Today, such a comparison resonates not merely as fantasy, but as a reminder of history's iron truths, that cultures forged by war see themselves as invincible, yet every weapon meets its counter, every empire meets its limit. The samurai and conquistadors never faced one another, but their stories echo across time as warnings and lessons. In their battles, real or imagined, we see reflected the eternal struggle of humanity to dominate, to survive, to honor, and to believe. And so, When we picture the red sun banners of Japan facing the golden crosses of Spain, we glimpse not only a clash of armies, but of worlds, worlds that never met, but whose warriors, in steel and spirit, still stand immortal in the chronicles of history. This episode was crafted with dedication to historical storytelling, blending fact with imagination to bring the past alive. If you value this effort to illuminate the warriors of our world, support the journey so that history, in all its voices and visions, continues to be told.